Most investors know that HMOs can make excellent investments. They give rental yields which are just not possible with standard buy-to-lets, and in the right areas the demand for affordable, flexible housing as offered by multi-lets has never been higher. But as with all things, for every yin there must be a yang, and today we weigh up on the pros and the cons of investing in houses in multiple occupation. So you've got a little bit of cash saved up and you're looking to make more cash. You turn to property. Smart choice. There are many ways to make money from property. You can look at investing in a buy-to-let, which is probably one of the most passive ways of making money out there. If you're looking at a more risky hands-on approach, you could potentially be looking at buying rundown properties, refurbing them and flipping them for a quick profit. Or, as this video is going to go into, you can look at making money from a HMO. So what is a HMO? A HMO is a house in multiple occupation. It's essentially a property that's rented out to at least 3 people who aren't from the same household. For example, you have a standard 3-bedroom house, but each bedroom is rented out to a working professional, but they share the living spaces. And that's why people find HMOs so attractive. You could rent off a 3-bedroom house as a single buy-to-let for £800. But that same property, if you were to convert it into a HMO, you could then rent off all the individual rooms and see your income perhaps doubling or tripling in value, because you're able to rent off on a room by room basis as opposed to rented off the entire property. So in terms of cash flow, HMO is the cash flow king. You can get the highest yield from a property that you're investing in. You would also be less impacted by rental void periods as well. If one tenant moves out, for example, you still have the other rooms that are tenanted. So with a single let, if there's a void period, you're not going to be making any money from that property at all because the property is vacant. Whereas with a HMO is rarely vacant. There'll be someone moving out, but in the other rooms you've still got tenants, so there is more consistency when it comes to your rent each month. Similarly, there is less exposure to rent arrears. With multiple tenants, you are less exposed. If one tenant falls behind on their rent, there are still the other tenants that are still paying. In a single let, arrears means that the entire rental income comes to a standstill. You're not getting any money for that month whatsoever. Another big advantage as well for HMOs is that you can get 6-month tenancies. Of course, you're going to get tenants out there who are going to want to stay there longer, but the choice is there with HMOs, whereas if, for example, you were going to try and Airbnb out a property, you haven't got that option. And lastly, the demand for flexible, affordable housing is increasing. There is a trend in the UK, especially around cities and large towns, where the average size of typical households is declining, but at the same time the overall population is obviously increasing. So this combination is leading to increased demand for HMOs over single buy-to-lets. So that all sounds great, doesn't it? You can potentially make 2 to 3 times the rental yield from the same property when you convert it into a HMO as opposed to a buy-to-let. You have less void periods, you have less exposure to rent arrears, and the demand for HMOs is increasing in some areas. However, there are a lot of strings attached. So here we go. Here come the cons. HMOs are held to a higher standard than regular buy-to-lets. There is more legislation involved, there are more planning requirements compared to single lets, and depending on the area that you're looking at investing in, you may need a license. This all depends on each council. Each council has their own particular set of criteria that they hold for HMOs. So you're going to have to tally in a higher startup cost as opposed to what you would if you were to just purchase a regular buy-to-let, if this is the strategy that you want to be going ahead with. There's going to be more furniture that you're going to need to buy. There's more environmental health regulations you need to consider, fire regulations. All of this needs to be tallied into your budget. Some councils may even be funny about HMOs and may limit the amount of HMOs in a particular area. So it's not as straightforward as picking a property in an up and coming area, think it's a good investment, and then converting it into a HMO. You may find that you're not allowed. You may even find that you fall at the first hurdle. You might find that you run into difficulties just trying to raise finance for a HMO. The barrier to entry for a HMO is considerably higher compared to a single let. And if you're a new landlord, lenders are going to be looking for someone who's got experience in managing a property, and you might struggle if this is going to be your first ever rental property that you're looking to buy. Therefore, you may struggle getting a mortgage deal, and if you do get a mortgage, you may need a larger deposit for the house. Also, converting a property into a HMO can take a toll on the capital growth of that property. This is because when a property has been converted into a HMO, its resale market is going to be quite niche. It's going to be consisting of exclusively specialised landlords, so the capital growth may be lower. And lastly, one of the most attractive features when it comes to investing in property is how passive the money can be once you're all set up, obviously excluding flipping properties. With standard buy-to-lets, if you're paying an agent to manage the property, apart from getting maybe the occasional email that something's broken in the property and needs to be fixed, or the tenant's contract is renewing, anything like that, it's just a case of collecting the rent each month. However, there are fewer letting agents out there that are willing to manage HMOs than there are just to manage single buy-to-lets. And this increases the chances that you may need to consider having to self-manage the property, which is obviously going to be quite time-consuming. So there you have it. HMOs can make a great investment and can offer you really high rental yields. However, as is with everything, they're not without any downsides, and my hope is now that you've watched this video, you will be able to make a more informed decision before you take the plunge with HMOs. Anyways, I've rambled on long enough in this video. If you've enjoyed it, please show us some love, give us a thumbs up, drop a comment below the video, subscribe. I'm doing my best to upload a video every week, so if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more content, and until next time.
JG.